about anybody who used cocaine in the 1980s was using Pablo Escobar's product.
Escobar was probably the most violent, the most ferocious criminal that has ever lived.
He was to cocaine what Ford was to cars.
The kind of money that Pablo Escobar made makes Al Capone look like he was selling carnations on a corner.
When he looked like this, you feel his power.
He was most likely the first criminal billionaire. He declared open war on the Colombian civilization. So either Pablo Escobar was going to survive, or the country of Colombia was going to survive, but both of them weren't going to survive together.
On November 6th, the world watched in utter disbelief as a group of heavily armed men commandeered the Colombian Ministry of Justice in broad daylight and butchered half of the country's Supreme Court justices in the ensuing firefight. Joe Toft, who spent 7 years in Colombia as head of the DEA's Bogota office, recalls that disastrous day.
The attack on the Palace of Justice really did not only shake Colombia, but it shook the world. And I think that was unbelievable. I mean, it really, I think, was the first true sign of where Colombia was, to the extent that violence had taken over the country. And it sent a shock to the world.
What made the attack almost beyond comprehension was that this was a political act taken by a criminal. Incredibly, one lone drug dealer, a man named Pablo Escobar, in a desperate attempt to avoid extradition to the United States. Escobar did not fear Colombian authorities, but he did fear American justice and American prisons. When he could not get the law changed to keep him from being brought to trial in the U.S., he tried to kill the lawmakers. One of the eyewitnesses to this massacre was a journalist from Pablo Escobar's hometown of Medellin, a woman with the courage to criticize the drug lord in print. Her name is Elizabeth Mora. She would meet with Escobar face-to-face an incredible 6 times, asking him what no one else dared, how he compiled his immense wealth, how he felt about his crimes. Escobar complied, but Mora's life was in constant jeopardy for years after.
He scared me, of course. He scared me. But I am a journalist, and since I was a young girl, I want to be one of the best journalists. So I have to choose between to be scared and ask questions. This was the report. This means from Medellin to Machine Gun City.
The fallout of the attack was felt throughout the hemisphere, as Tom Cash, former head of the DEA's office in Miami, explains.
We were stunned. The Colombian government was stunned. There was disbelief. There was an intimidation. People get afraid. All those judges were killed. Ostensibly, it was to burn the records, it was to destroy the extradition documents. It was very unsettling, and it was just the beginning.
Pablo Escobar had risen from his humble beginnings as a small-time thug to become the richest and most powerful cocaine lord in history. Escobar's cocaine cartel had already made him fabulously rich and terribly feared. But with this audacious act, he stepped over a line that had never before been crossed. A drug dealer who would dare declare war against a government. With this act, and other more awful ones to follow, Escobar stepped onto the world stage, a criminal legend, such as had never been seen before. It is believed Pablo Escobar began his criminal career as a young boy in the slums and back roads of the village of Rio Negro, 17 miles outside Medellin.
He discovered the potential of getting involved in drugs.
Cocky. When I ever used to see pictures of Escobar, was that cocky, brash type of attitude where I'm in charge, nobody can knock me down. Most of his pictures, if you were to see them, even the first time he got arrested, I call it the famous Jimmy Dean shot. It's, you know, he's smiling, he's, you know, well combed, he looks good, but it was an air of, I am in charge, I am powerful, no one can knock me down. Later on, him and his cousin got organized in doing small loads. I'm talking about 5 kilos of cocaine, 10 kilos of cocaine.
At age 26, Escobar was arrested for possession of 39 pounds of cocaine, his first and only drug bust. For another man, it might have been the end, but not for Pablo Escobar. The arresting officer was mysteriously murdered, and 9